Hey, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to look at a Nintendo Switch that was brought to us because it was having charging problems. The owner said they felt it was just the USB-C port that needed swapped out, but after we got into it, we found a few other things that needed addressed. So, if you stick around, we'll show you how to get it done. Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today on the bench, we have another Nintendo Switch. This one has a charge problem. It came to us, and the person who dropped it off said they think that the USB-C port is damaged, but just looking at this thing, it's well beat up. So I don't know exactly what we'll find. Oh, they left a game in it. We'll just set that aside for a minute. Super Smash Bros. Good game. Okay, so let's get the port under the microscope real quick, and we'll see, if we can see anything obvious. So I have it set up just right over here for quick inspections. Oh yeah. We can see right there. Just using the tweezers, that those pins are mashed over to the one side. So I'm not even going to try to plug this in. Flip it around, see if anything on the other side. That side's okay. It looks like it's peeled apart a little bit too. So I'm not even going to try to plug it in. We know the port is physically damaged. So I'm going to go ahead and get that motherboard out. You probably don't want to see it. A lot of videos on how to take this guy apart. So I'm going to go ahead and get that motherboard out, and we'll take a closer look. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. I got the main board out of it. And to be honest with you, I almost stopped this video. As I was getting into it, I found moisture and some other things I didn't like. So I had to take a step back. Put a physical charge into the battery just to see if everything else was okay. And it seems like the motherboard was fine. So I decided to go ahead and move forward. And while I was taking it apart, so here's our USB-C here. And you can see, all the pins are still soldered. But if you look here, here's the front of it, and this is where the plug would go in. Somehow, and I've never seen this before, and somehow the owner managed to break away all these spot welds on this connector. That's very much a new one on me. When I saw it wiggling around, pulling it from the shell, I thought maybe the solder joints had been disrupted, but nope, it was the actual housing. You can see it, but you can also see all the the stuff I encountered. This is old soda or something, and it was physically wet inside. Okay, so we need to replace this port now. Like some of the other components you've seen me change on this, it's all lead-free solders, and the issue with these USB-C ports, these new ones, is there's two sets of pins. Ones that you can get to and ones that you can't. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if we set the new one under the microscope, you can see. So there's a row of pins, these ones here, that you can get to with the soldering iron, but then there's these ones back here. So what we wind up doing is tinning all of these and tinning the pads. And I'll set the new one aside. And we'll clean all the lead-free solder off, and we'll tin all the pads. We'll tin these tips, and we'll set it down, and we'll heat it from below, and it'll drop right on. And then we'll come in and physically add solder to the anchor points. I guess the other thing we should do is check our charge control IC, make sure it's okay and happy. But with that connector messed up, we might catch a ground somewhere else. So let's take a real quick look. The back of these should all be grounds. The front should not. Oh, well, we got a short on that last cap. All right, everything else is looking good. Might as well look over here at this guy. Okay, everything's good there. And let's look at our USB chip. Okay, that all seems okay. And I guess since we're here, we should check our filters and our fuse. So there's our filters. Okay, they all seem okay. Oh, and our fuse. It's a little guy. There it is. Okay, so the fuse is good, but we are showing a short up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off our USB-C port first, and then we will see if this short goes away on our charge chip here. And if it does, then we won't have to worry about changing it. But if we take this off and the short's still there, then we're gonna also have to change that guy. And I'll be right back. Okay, I just needed to get some of our equipment ready and make sure we had everything that we needed on hand. So what we're gonna do first is get this off, and we're gonna use a little of the low temp solder. We're going to come in on the pins, at least the ones we can get to, and add some flux. We always want to add flux because this low melt solder doesn't have any. And we will set this up in the stand. But you need to make sure you hit it in a spot that's not going to cause any damage. There's a lot of small components right at the edge of the board. So to get up to our USB-C, I'm going to get one of our clips right in this area, because there's nothing on this side of the board. And then right here at this shoulder, since there's nothing that's going to interrupt us. So right here at the edge of this plastic clip, right at the edge of the board. Okay. There we go. Might as well get the microscope on top of this so you can see what I'm up to. Okay. Got the microscope set up. And as you can see, there's the back side of our port. And we will get some flux on these pads. And we still have some low melt solder on here, so we should just be able to mix it in. Now, like I was saying, we can't get to the second row pins, but this will help significantly in releasing our port. There it is. Just give that a moment to cool. Okay, so we're gonna need to get those legs out. And we'll need to clean up our lead-free solders. Okay. There we go. Without the flux and the extra solder, sometimes you just can't transfer the heat properly. Or sometimes it just gets stuck. Okay, here's our, that's where we want to be. And we need some desoldering braid. And we'll get this cleaned up. Sometimes these can be just a little bit stubborn, and you know, don't try to short by not cleaning them properly. There we go. You just gotta stick with it. Sometimes you gotta put fresh solder back down in the hole to get it to flow. The lead-free solders, and you know, and stick with a clean spot on your braid. But sometimes these lead-free solders just do not want to move. I think that's got it. Looks pretty good. We'll just run a little fresh patch of braid on the back. Just to make sure. There we go. And clean up with a little alcohol. Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. Everything's open. Should be good. We can check the fit of our new port. And it sits down nice and flat. That's exactly what we need it to do. Okay, but that brings us to another point. The short we found before up here. So let's see if our short is gone, because there were pins, you know, down in our connector that were physically shorted together, one of them being power. Hold on, let's see. Yep. It's only showing that last one showing 11 ohms. All right, we're gonna have to pull that chip off too. And as always, flux is our friend. All right, chips off. Let's see if our short's gone. And our short is gone. Okay, all right. So we need to clean this up too. Okay. Get a little alcohol on that. It's looking pretty good. So we got both connectors off right now. Here's our old chip. Here's our old connector. Set them aside. Okay. I gotta go find a chip for this board and I'll be right back. All right, we're back with our board all cleaned up, as we can see here. We got our chip off, we have our port off, everything's pretty clean. So now what we need to do is tin up our contacts on the board, and you can see them there. So back to the flux. Always, 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 for anybody doing this at home, flux. And, you know, I've said this before in my other videos, and you've been watching them over the last month, you know, I'm only down a couple more milliliters. It really isn't as much as it looks like. So we'll go ahead and get some good leaded solder on there. Something like this, you know, I just use a chisel tip because it actually holds quite a bit of solder. That looks pretty good. And then we can come back up here. Here again, flux, flux, flux. Clean tip. What I should do is get one of those tips that's small and conical and only has one face that's tinned. Where are we at? There we are. Okay. It's looking pretty good. And just so you guys know, my hands really aren't as steady as they look like under the microscope. There's one little bridge there. Let's take care of that. But as you can see, I'm using two hands and I'm on top of the table. There we go. That looks nice. That'll all squeeze out when we're doing our soldering. The other thing I want to do is go ahead and find where our microscope's at. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and put a teeny bit of solder on those. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, normally I don't worry about, you know, you've seen me do HDMI connectors and some other connectors, and normally I don't worry about it. But since this particular connector is basically being soldered blind, you know, this row of connectors is hidden once you start to put it on. So the only way to make sure that it goes on is to put a little tin on them. Okay, now we can grab this from the same position or the same points that we did earlier. By that connector, by this edge. And by that edge. Okay. So there's our connector. And I'm going to turn my heat down since we've got leaded solder on everything. There we go. We don't want to melt our, you know, the plastic in our new connector since we're doing this from up top. But it should go on pretty quick. Once the solder starts to flow on the board here, we can drop this connector on, and just within, you know, a second or two, we know that everything will flow. Watch for the solder to go bright. Give it a little push. Don't melt our plastic. Don't burn your finger. All right, so that should be on. And what you didn't see probably is as I pulled the heat away, I was pointing it at my pinky. So, oh, and by the way, all the tools, I'm now an Amazon affiliate. So this little inexpensive microscope and these stands and whatnot, everything's linked below if you're wondering, and you should be able to get them directly now. So our connector's done, and I'm just going to actually take a peek under the loop real quick just to make sure. Yep, that looks real nice, and we'll get a close-up later. But now we can just come to the back side and solder our connector on. Where is it? There it is. Okay. So once again, flux. Even though the solder we're going to use will have flux, these teeny little parts that just everything benefits by using a little bit of extra flux. And it'll flow right down into the holes. Just like that. And if we can find it on the other side, you'll see that it actually even comes up around the top. If we can find it again. There it is. You can see, you know, right here that the solder flows right up into it. All right, there's part of it. And once again, we'll just give her a little cleanup. Okay. All right, now let's address our charge chip. And I usually try to keep these in the shop because they do get done quite often. And we will put the old parts in this bag for the owner to see what has been changed. All right. So here's our new chip. Here's our new chip. You can see the mark on the board for number 1. And we're all tinned up with lead-free solder. Now we'll get some curved tweezers, which help keep our fingers out of everything. And I will actually put just a touch of flux on the bottom of this. It'll wind up on my mat, but that's okay. And we're going to put some fresh flux around the chip. Or the chip. It's not a socket, I guess, but it's a chip pad. All right, that looks pretty good. Microscope's out of focus, but We'll let that cool, and I'm gonna give it a better inspection. I'll be right back. All right, I gave it a bit of an inspection, and everything looked straight. There was no blobs hanging out or anything like that. So we'll just give it a little cleanup. Clean the board. And we'll come back here and see if our short's still gone. By the way, if you can see here, I'm just putting my probe to the ground, to this big metal shield. Everything metal, and the screw holes should be our grounds. Now, if we come back here, okay, those are all our grounds. Look at that, our short's gone. Okay, so we don't have a short anymore, and we should be good. Get a Nintendo charger out. We can put our microscope away for a minute. And we'll get a meter and our Nintendo cord. All right, so we got the OE charger, and we've got a. This is the charger or the meter I normally like to use when checking switches, but without a battery, this won't turn on. But this one will give us an indication if we're going to do anything. Okay, showing 5 volts, 0.06 amps. So there's power flowing into the board. Let's go ahead and move over to this one. We'll plug our battery in and see what we get. There we go. Looks like we're starting to charge. 15 volts, 0.2 amps. The battery is very depleted, so I think we've got this one. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one back together, and I think we'll have a happy customer. Okay. All right, so we got this one back together. It was a bit of a struggle. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I almost didn't do it because it was such a mess, and I had to clean up the fan, and found some soda underneath the edge of the case. So I figured I'd clean it out for him. So now the moment of truth. Let's see what we get. Well, that's a good sign. And that's a good sign. We're charging. So like I said, the battery was fairly depleted, so it's not going to come up real high in amperage yet. So let's go ahead and turn our connector over just to make sure all of our pins are soldered, and we are. And everything's good. All right, so I'll let that one charge up on a different bench so I can get on to some other things. But anyway, like I've said earlier, we're now an Amazon affiliate. Please use the links below to help support the channel. There's also affiliate links for Handheld Legend if you're looking for any modding parts for the handhelds. I do appreciate everybody that's here. Please give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks.